The large meeting room on the top floor of Earth's diplomatic center was quiet. Ambassador Na Lee looked out of the window at the busy streets of Seoul below. She watched as flying cars moved between tall buildings in neat lines. It was hard to believe that just 20 years ago, humans had been alone in the universe. Now, Earth was part of the Galactic Council, and she was one of its top diplomats. Her peaceful moment ended when her computer screen lit up with an urgent message. The Galactic Council wanted to talk. Now. Computer, accept call, Na said, turning away from the window. The air in front of her desk filled with light, and 3 alien faces appeared. She recognized them as the Council's senior members, beings from the oldest space-traveling races. The alien in the middle, who looked like a tall blue tree with eyes, spoke first. Ambassador Lee, we need Earth's help. We have a very serious problem. Na sat up straighter. It was rare for the Council to ask Earth for help. Humans were still seen as newcomers by many alien races. How can we help? The Vreshnar, said the second alien, who had 6 eyes and gray skin. They're threatening to start a war with the Peaceful Worlds Alliance. Na knew about the Vreshnar. They were a warrior race who lived in huge space stations. They were known for being aggressive and hard to talk to. Many experienced alien diplomats had tried and failed to make peace with them. We've tried everything, the third alien said. Its crystal body sparkled as it spoke. Traditional diplomatic methods don't work. But then we heard about you, Ambassador Lee, about how you solve problems in unusual ways. Na tried not to smile. She knew what they meant. Last year, she had stopped a trade war by starting a cooking competition between 2 angry alien groups. Her bosses had called it crazy, but it had worked. The aliens had become friends while trying to cook Earth food. The Vreshnar have asked for you specifically, the tree-like alien said. They saw recordings of your work. They said they want the chaos diplomats of Earth to help solve this crisis. This was new. Usually, aliens wanted traditional diplomats who followed all the rules. What exactly do they want us to do? Na asked. They want you to come to their main space station. The gray alien explained. They say they will only talk to humans who understand that sometimes the best order comes from chaos. Na thought about this. The Vreshnar were dangerous. One wrong move could start a war that would harm many worlds. But they were asking for help in their own way. Maybe they had seen something in Earth's diplomatic style that others had missed. I'll need to pick my team, she said. And I'll need complete freedom to handle this in my way, even if my methods seem strange. The 3 council members looked at each other. The crystal alien spoke. You will have what you need. But please remember, the peace of many worlds depends on this. After the call ended, Na walked back to the window. The sun was setting, turning the sky orange. Below, the city lights were coming on. She touched the screen on her desk and called her old friend, Kita Park. Kita, I need your help, she said when his face appeared. We need to put together a team. The council wants us to talk to the Vreshnar. Kita's eyes widened. The warrior race. Are they serious? Very serious. And here's the strange part. The Vreshnar asked for us. They want Earth's chaos diplomats. Kita was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. Well, they came to the right place. Nobody does diplomatic chaos better than you, Na. She smiled back. Get ready for a long night, Kita. We need to find the right people for this mission. And we need to do it fast. As she ended the call, Na looked at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, a warrior race was waiting for Earth's diplomats to bring their special kind of chaos to a deadly serious situation. She hoped they were ready for what they had asked for. Kita Park stood in the center of the meeting room, surrounded by holographic screens. Each screen showed a different diplomatic incident from the past 5 years. He watched as Na famous kimchi incident played out on the largest screen. Play it again, he told the computer. The scene started over. Young stood in an alien conference room between two angry species who were close to declaring war. Instead of a formal meeting, she had brought ingredients for kimchi. The aliens had been confused at first, but soon they were all working together, trying to follow her grandmother's recipe. "What are you watching?" a voice asked. Kita turned to see Hyun Choi, Earth's top security expert, standing in the doorway. "I'm studying Young's methods," Kita said. "We need to pick the right team for the Freshnar mission. People who can think like her." Hyun walked into the room. She was wearing her formal black uniform, but her smile was friendly. "You mean people who can create useful chaos?" "Exactly." Kita pointed to another screen. "Look at this one." The screen showed Jin Ho Kang, a cultural specialist, teaching a group of cat-like aliens how to play traditional Korean games. What had started as a tense trade meeting had turned into a fun competition. The aliens had signed the trade agreement while playing Yut Nori, a board game. "Jin-ho understands how to bridge cultural gaps," Kita said. "We need him on the team." Hyun nodded. "I've worked with him before. He's good at reading alien body language. That could be very helpful with the Freshnar." Keita pulled up another file. "What about Min Seok Kim? He's an expert in military history." The screen showed a tall man giving a presentation about ancient Korean battle traditions. Min Seok was explaining how old enemies had become allies through shared warrior values. "Perfect," Hyun said. "The Freshnar respect warriors. Min Seok can help us understand their military culture." They spent the next hour reviewing more candidates. Finally, they added one more name to their list. Yoo Jin Baek, a young diplomat known for her careful planning skills. "We need someone who can organize the chaos," Keita explained. Yoo Jin can help structure Young's unusual methods. Just then, Young walked into the room. She looked at the screens and smiled. "How's the selection going?" Keita showed her their choices. Jin Ho for cultural understanding, Min Seok for military knowledge, Yoo Jin for planning, and Hyun for security. "What do you think?" Young studied the list carefully. "It's a good mix. We have everything we need. Knowledge, security, planning, and most importantly, people who aren't afraid to try new things." "The Vreshnar ship arrives tomorrow," Hyun said. "They're sending their top military leaders." Young looked at the team profiles again. "Send everyone a message. Tell them to meet me in the garden room in 2 hours. And ask them to bring their favorite snacks." Keita raised an eyebrow. "Snacks? For a mission briefing?" "The best way to build a team is to share food," Young said with a smile. "Besides, I want to see how creative they can be with their choices. It will tell me a lot about how they think." As Keita sent the messages, he watched Young studying the footage of past diplomatic successes. He knew that look in her eyes. She was already planning something unexpected. "The Vreshnar wanted Earth's chaos diplomats," Hyun said. "I think they're going to get exactly what they asked for." Young turned off the screens. "Let's hope they're ready for it. Because tomorrow, we start showing them how Earth handles impossible situations." The Vreshnar ship was huge. It hung in Earth's orbit like a giant metal star, its surface covered in sharp angles and glowing lines. Young and her team watched it through the space station's windows. "They're ready to come aboard," Hyun said, checking her security tablet. "Their leaders are bringing 10 guards with them." Young looked at her team. Jin Ho was setting up what looked like a small kitchen area in the meeting room. Min Seok was arranging some old military items on a table. Yoo Jin was checking her carefully made schedule one last time. "Remember," Young said, "we're not doing this the normal way. No long speeches, no formal ceremonies." Keita nodded. "Just your special brand of chaos." "Controlled chaos," Young corrected with a smile. "Now, everyone to their positions." The Vreshnar entered the room in a tight formation. They were tall, with gray-green skin and armor that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. Their leader, Commander Dax, stood at least 3 heads taller than Young. "Welcome to Earth Station," Ne-young said. She didn't bow or offer her hand as usual. Instead, she picked up a cooking apron and held it out to the commander. "Please put this on." The Vreshnar guards tensed. Commander Dax's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "What is the meaning of this?" his translator device asked. "On Earth, we believe that the best way to understand each other is to create something together," Ne-young explained. "Today, we're all going to cook a meal." The commander's faceplates shifted, showing what might have been surprise. "Cook? We are here to discuss war and peace, not food." Jinho stepped forward. In many Earth cultures, sharing food is a sacred trust. When we cook together, we must rely on each other. We must communicate. We must work as one. Min Seok added, "Many of Earth's greatest warriors would cook together before battle. It showed trust and built bonds between them." The Vreshnar guards looked at their commander. After a long moment, Commander Dax took the apron. "What are we cooking?" "A dish from each of our worlds," Ne-young said. She pointed to the cooking stations. "We'll work in mixed teams, Vreshnar and human together at each station." What followed was unlike any diplomatic meeting in galactic history. Humans taught Vreshnar how to chop vegetables for bibimbap. Vreshnar showed humans how to prepare their traditional warrior stew, which glowed slightly and smelled like sweet metal. There were some tense moments. A Vreshnar guard almost cut himself with an earth knife, not used to its simple design. A human diplomat almost added the wrong spice to the warrior stew, which could have made it poisonous. But each time, both sides helped each other avoid mistakes. Hayan watched carefully from her security position, but she found herself hiding smiles. The mighty Vreshnar warriors were asking questions about rice cooking techniques. The humans were learning Vreshnar cooking songs, which sounded like deep humming mixed with drum beats. "This is madness," one of the Galactic Council observers whispered to Kita. "How can this possibly help with peace talks?" Kaita watched as Commander Dax laughed at his own mistake in rolling kimbap. "Look at them," he said. "An hour ago, they were rigid and formal. Now they're learning from each other, sharing stories, building trust." By the time all the food was ready, the atmosphere in the room had completely changed. The Vreshnar guards had relaxed their formation. The humans were asking questions about Vreshnar culture. Both sides were showing genuine interest in each other's cooking methods. As they all sat down to eat together, Ne-young caught Commander Dax's eyes. "Now," she said, "while we enjoy this meal we made together, shall we talk about peace?" The commander looked at the mixed dishes on the table, then at his warriors sitting comfortably with the humans. "Yes," he said, using his translator's most formal setting. "I believe now we can truly talk." 3 days after the cooking session, everything went wrong. Ne-young was reviewing progress reports in her office when all the emergency lights turned red. Hae-yun burst through the door, her face serious. "The Vreshnar have moved their battle fleet," she said. "They're positioning ships near the peaceful world's borders. The council is calling an emergency meeting." Ne-young hurried to the main conference room. The holographic displays showed hundreds of Vreshnar ships moving into attack positions. Commander Dax's image appeared on the main screen, his faceplates dark with anger. "The peaceful worlds have insulted our honor," he announced. "They called our cooking primitive during yesterday's cultural exchange. This mockery cannot stand." Kaita, who was standing next to Ne-young, whispered, "This is about more than just the food comment. Something else is wrong." Min Seok stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the Vreshnar ship's formation. "Look at how they're positioned," he said. "This is exactly like an ancient Korean battle stance. When warriors felt threatened, they would arrange their forces in this pattern." Ne-young studied the display more carefully. The Vreshnar ships had formed a half-circle, with their strongest vessels at the edges. "You're right. They're not attacking. They're protecting something." Jinho was reviewing cultural data on his tablet. According to Vreshnar traditions, positioning ships this way is a defensive move. They're treating the insult as an attack on their entire culture. Commander Dax was still speaking, listing grievances against the peaceful worlds. But Ne Young noticed something in his voice. When he mentioned the cooking insult, his translator device made a slight humming sound, different from its normal tone. "Play back his statement," she told the computer. "Focus on the audio patterns." Min Seok understood what she was looking for. In ancient Korea, warriors would change their speech patterns when they felt their traditions were being disrespected. It was a sign of deep cultural wound, not just anger. Ne Young turned to Yu Jin. "Get me everything we have on Vreshnar cultural ceremonies, and contact the peaceful world's representatives. I need to know exactly what was said during that exchange." The next hour was tense. The Galactic Council members argued about sanctions and military responses, but Ne Young's team was busy studying cultural patterns and historical records. Finally, Jin Ho found something important. "The Vreshnar don't just cook food," he explained. "They believe cooking is a form of storytelling. Each dish contains the history of their battles and honors their ancestors. When the peaceful worlds called their cooking primitive, they weren't just insulting their food," Ne Young finished. "They were disrespecting their entire history." Heyun checked her security feeds. "The Vreshnar ships are moving closer to the border. We have maybe 2 hours before they're in firing range." Ne Young stood up. Her mind was racing, putting pieces together. The cooking ceremony they'd shared, the way the Vreshnar had taught them their cooking songs, the ship formation that looked like an ancient defensive stance. "I know what we need to do," she said, "but it's going to sound crazy." Keita smiled. "When has that ever stopped us? What's your plan?" Ne Young looked at the image of the Vreshnar fleet. "We're going to challenge them to a very special kind of contest. Min Seok, I need you to tell me everything you know about ancient Korean military ceremonies. And Jin Ho, find out if the Vreshnar have anything similar in their history." She turned to face her team. "We have 2 hours to prevent a war, and we're going to do it by combining the most formal traditions of both our cultures in the most chaotic way possible." Ne Young stood before the emergency council meeting. The large screen behind her showed the Vreshnar fleet moving ever closer to the border. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "Honorable council members, Commander Dax, representatives of the peaceful worlds, I propose a solution to this crisis," she said. "We will hold a ceremonial competition that honors both Vreshnar traditions and ancient Earth customs." Commander Dax's image appeared on the main screen. "Explain," he said, his translator device humming with interest. Ne Young gestured to Min Seok, who stepped forward with his historical records. In ancient Korea, armies would sometimes settle disputes through ceremonial competitions. These events tested skill, honor, and wisdom without bloodshed. Jin Ho added his findings from the Vreshnar cultural database. The Vreshnar have a similar tradition called the Trial of Worthy Spirits. Warriors would compete in tests of skill to prove their cultural understanding. The council chamber grew quiet. Even the peaceful world's representatives leaned forward with interest. "I propose we combine these traditions," Ne Young continued. "We will create 3 challenges. Each one will test different aspects of both cultures. The Vreshnar and the peaceful worlds will compete, but with a twist. Each team must include members from all 3 species: Vreshnar, peaceful worlds, and human." Commander Dax's faceplates shifted. "What kind of challenges do you suggest?" Yu Jin displayed the plan she had carefully prepared. "The first challenge will be a cooking competition, but with military precision. Teams must prepare both Vreshnar warriors' stew and a dish from the peaceful worlds, while following strict battle kitchen protocols. The second challenge," Min Seok explained, "combines Vreshnar combat forms with traditional Korean ceremonial movements. Teams must work together to perform these complex patterns perfectly. The final challenge," Ne Young said, "will be storytelling through action. Each team must act out a historical battle from each culture's past, but with respect and accuracy." Heyun stepped forward. "My security team will ensure that all challenges are fair and safe. We will use special training grounds that can adapt to each event. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some members called it ridiculous. Others saw the wisdom in it. The peaceful world's representatives whispered among themselves. Commander Dax was silent for a long moment. You propose to settle this dispute with cooking, dancing, and storytelling? He asked. No, Ne Young replied firmly. I propose to settle it with a demonstration of mutual respect and understanding. These challenges will require all participants to learn about each other's cultures deeply and work together closely. The commander's faceplates shifted to a lighter color. In our history, the trial of worthy spirits was considered as honorable as any battle. And if your ancient warriors also settled disputes this way, he turned to his advisors, speaking in their language. The peaceful world's leaders stood up. We are willing to participate if it will prevent war. But we request one change. We want Ambassador Nadung to lead one of the teams. Agreed. Commander Dax said quickly, I will lead another team myself. Ne Young looked at her own team. Kita nodded encouragingly. Jinho was already making notes about cultural protocols. Min Seok began reviewing historical records. Yu Jin started adapting her schedule. Hei Yun was planning security measures. Very well, Ne Young said. We have our solution. The challenges will begin in 12 hours. May the most harmonious team win. As the council members filed out to prepare, Kite approached Ne Young. You're going to turn a potential war into a cultural festival, he said with admiration. Ne Young watched as Vreshnar warriors began discussing cooking techniques with members of the peaceful worlds. Sometimes, she said, the best way to prevent chaos is to create your own. The space station's main hall had been transformed. 3 large areas were set up for the different challenges. Hei Yun's security teams had installed special safety measures everywhere. Thousands of beings from different worlds watched through holographic screens. Ne Young stood with her team. She had a Vreshnar warrior named Krell and a peaceful world scientist called Amath with her. Commander Dax led another team, and the third team was led by the peaceful world's ambassador. The first challenge begins now, announced Kita through the speakers. Teams must prepare their ceremonial meals. Ne Young's team moved to their cooking station. Krell knew the warrior's stew recipe by heart, while Amath understood the delicate spices of their own world's dish. Ne Young helped them work together, showing them how to combine their cooking styles. The stew needs more heat, Krell said, his translator making his voice sound worried. But the spices will burn, Amath replied, holding up a delicate blue leaf. Ne Young thought quickly. What if we cook them separately, then combine them using the ancient Vreshnar mixing ceremony? That way, both traditions are honored. The idea worked perfectly. Their dishes came together just as the time ran out. The judges, including Jinho, tasted each team's food carefully. Ne Young's team didn't win this round. Commander Dax's team did, but they had learned to work together well. The second challenge was harder. They had to perform complex movements that combined Vreshnar battle forms with Korean ceremonial gestures. Min Seok had spent hours teaching everyone the correct ways to move. Remember, Ne Young told her teammates, it's not about being perfect. It's about showing respect for each other's traditions. Krell helped Amath with the warrior stances, while Amath showed them how to move more gracefully. Ne Young remembered her school days learning traditional Korean dances. Together, they created something new, a performance that honored all their cultures. This time, they won first place. Even Commander Dax nodded in approval at their performance. The final challenge was the most difficult. Each team had to act out 3 historical battles, one from each culture. They had only a few hours to learn the stories and practice. In this battle, Krell explained to his teammates, our ancestors defended their home against space pirates. They used their ships to create a wall of light. That's like the story of my people, Amath said excitedly. When we used our science to create shields of peace. Ne Young saw her chance, and similar to how Korean Admiral Yi Sun-sin used his ships to protect his people. See, Our histories have more in common than we thought. Their performance wasn't the most polished, but it showed deep respect for each culture's history. They acted out each battle with care, making sure to show the honor and bravery of all sides. When the final scores were added up, all three teams were very close. Commander Dax's team won overall, but only by a small margin. The real victory, Ne Young said during the closing ceremony, is that we learned to understand each other better. We turned potential enemies into teammates. The Vreshnar fleet had moved away from the border during the competition. Now, Commander Dax approached the peaceful world's representatives. Perhaps, he said, we could learn more about each other's cooking traditions. For peace, of course. Hei-yun, watching from her security post, smiled. Your chaos worked again, she told Ne Young quietly. Not chaos, Ne Young corrected her. Understanding. Sometimes you just need to look at things differently to find the right path to peace. 1 week after the competition, Ne Young sat in the grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council. The room was filled with representatives from many worlds. Commander Dax stood at the center, addressing everyone. The Vreshnar people have made a decision, he announced. We wish to establish permanent diplomatic relations with both Earth and the peaceful worlds. Our ships will remain in their proper territories. A wave of relief swept through the room. The crisis was over. But Commander Dax wasn't finished speaking. However, we have one condition, he continued. We request that Earth establish a special diplomatic office on our main station. We want more of what Ambassador Ne Young calls chaos diplomacy. Ne Young looked at Kita, who was trying not to smile. The peaceful world's representative stood up next. We also request Earth's diplomatic presence, they said. The competition showed us that we have much to learn from Earth's methods of bringing people together. The Council's senior member, the tree-like alien, spoke next. This is unprecedented. Never before has Earth been asked to take such an important role in galactic diplomacy. Ne Young stood up to address the Council. Earth accepts these requests. But we also have a suggestion. Instead of separate offices, we propose creating a new diplomatic training center. All species can send representatives to learn from each other. Jin Ho added details to the proposal. The center will teach traditional diplomatic methods and Earth's more creative approaches. Students will learn about different cultures through shared experiences. Commander Dax's faceplates shifted to show approval. The Vreshnar will send our young warriors to learn these methods. The peaceful worlds will send our diplomats as well, their representative agreed. Hei-yun, who had been quietly monitoring security, spoke up. We can design the training center to accommodate all species safely. Each area can be adapted for different cultural needs. Min Seok started sharing ideas. We can include spaces for ceremonial events, cultural exchanges, and even cooking classes. Everything that helped us understand each other better during the crisis. Yu Jin was already making notes on her tablet. We can create a structured program that combines formal diplomatic training with Earth's more unconventional methods. The council members discussed the proposal. Some were worried that it was too different from traditional ways. Others saw it as an opportunity for positive change. Finally, the crystal-bodied council member spoke. This crisis has shown us something important. Sometimes the old ways of doing things need to change. Earth's chaos diplomacy, as unusual as it seems, has prevented a war and created new friendships. The vote was unanimous. The new diplomatic training center would be built at a neutral location in space, where all species could reach it easily. After the meeting, Ne Young's team gathered in their office. They watched through the window as the Vreshnar ships prepared to leave Earth's orbit. I never thought our cooking competition would lead to this, Kita said. Ne Young smiled. Sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places. We didn't just prevent a war. We changed how different species will talk to each other forever. The real question is, Hei-yun said with a grin, who's going to teach the first cooking class at the new center? They all laughed, but they knew this was just the beginning. Earth's chaotic diplomatic methods would now help shape the future of galactic peace. And somewhere in space, A new generation of diplomats would learn that sometimes the best way to solve a problem was to try something completely unexpected. 6 months had passed since the Vreshnar crisis. The new Galactic Diplomatic Training Center floated in neutral space, its curved buildings shining in the light of distant stars. Kita Park stood in his office, looking out at the ships arriving from different worlds. "The new class arrives today," Yu Jin said, entering his office with a digital report. "We have students from 27 different species." Kita nodded, feeling proud. As the center's director, he had watched it grow from an idea into reality. "How are the Vreshnar and Peaceful World students getting along?" "Better than anyone expected," Yu Jin replied. "Yesterday, they organized a joint cooking class without any prompting from us." The training center had become famous across the galaxy. Its unique approach to diplomacy had caught everyone's attention. Traditional diplomatic schools now sent their best students here to learn Earth's methods. Na Young walked in, returning from a mission to help two arguing species resolve a trade dispute. "You won't believe what worked this time," she said, smiling. "We had them build model ships together. By the time they finished, they had solved their problems." "Of course it worked," Heian said, joining them. "Your chaos always does." She was now in charge of teaching security teams how to protect diplomatic missions while allowing for unexpected solutions. Jin Ho appeared on the room's communication screen. He was teaching cultural understanding on a distant space station. "The new diplomatic handbook is ready," he announced. Min Seok finished adding the historical examples. Keita picked up his tablet to look at the handbook. It was called The Earth Protocol, Understanding Chaos Diplomacy. The book explained how to use unexpected methods to create peace. It had examples from their missions and tips for combining different cultural traditions. "The Council wants us to train more diplomats," Na Young said. "They're especially interested in our emergency response methods." "You mean our ability to turn potential wars into cooking competitions?" Heian asked with a laugh. "That's only part of it," Kita said. "We're teaching them how to think differently about problems, how to find connections between cultures that nobody else sees." Through the window, they watched as a Vreshnar ship performed a traditional greeting ceremony with a vessel from the Peaceful Worlds. The ships moved in perfect harmony, showing respect for each other's customs. "Remember when they were almost at war?" Yu Jin asked softly. Na Young nodded. "Now look at them. They're teaching each other their traditions. And it all started because we dared to try something different." A young diplomat from Earth entered the office. "Ambassador Lee, the new students are ready for your opening lecture." Na Young straightened her uniform. "What should I tell them first?" she asked her friends. "Tell them about the cooking competition," Heian suggested. "No," Kita said. "Tell them about how chaos can create order, about how the strangest solutions are sometimes the best ones." Na Young smiled. "I'll tell them the truth, that being a good diplomat means being brave enough to try new things. That sometimes the best way to make peace is to break all the usual rules." As she walked the lecture hall, Na Young passed students from many different worlds. Some had scales, others had fur. Some floated, others walked. But they were all here to learn Earth's special way of making peace. "Welcome to the Galactic Diplomatic Training Center," she began, looking at the eager faces before her. "Today, you'll start learning why the galaxy now demands Earth's chaos diplomats. And trust me, it's quite a story."